editions of pandas in the NCSE office. We scanned them, and my staff wrote little scripts, because they do that. And we did, 5-word and 10-word and 20-word scans, and we very quickly showed that, yes, this was a sequence of, this was the same manuscript and so forth. But we also did little things, little simple word counts, and we traced words through these documents, and we did some very simple things, made some very simple graphics to show how, things like the word creationism, creationist, word counts through these various manuscripts, and how often do these words occur, and how often does the phrase intelligent design occur? Would you like to know? Now, interesting. What do you suppose happened in between the first edition of Pandas of 1987 and the second edition of 1987? Well, okay, extra points, boys and girls. What happened in 1987? Edwards versus? Right. Edwards versus Aguilar, July of 1987, struck down creation science. And all of a sudden, creation science disappears from the manuscript Pandas and People, and intelligent design increases. Now, that is suggestive. Test the hypothesis, says scientists. Here's a way of testing the hypothesis. Let's look at how the phrases of one paragraph, this is Biology and Creation, 1986. Creation means the various forms of life began abruptly through the agency of an intelligent creator with their distinctive features already intact. Fish with fins and scales, birds with feathers, beaks and wings, etc. And we find the same thing in Biology and Origin, 1987. Creation means the various forms of life began abruptly through the agency of an intelligent creator with their distinctive features already intact. All together now, fish with fins and scales, birds with feathers, beaks and wings. And here we go, boring. Creation means the various forms of life began abruptly through the agency of an intelligent creator with their distinctive fish with fins and scales, birds with feathers, beaks and wings. This is your missing link, boys and girls. This is Pandas and People, Draft 1. Would you like to see Draft 2? Intelligent design means the various forms of life began abruptly through an, intelligent agency with their distinctive features already intact. All together now, fish with fins and scales, birds with feathers. Okay. It was information like this that rather swiftly persuaded the judge that there was a definite link between creation science and intelligent design. And in fact, intelligent design was rather weakly repackaged creation science. We also were able to use the theologian John Haught, who was the author of a number of books on Christian theology and evolution, to trace the history of the design argument back to Paley and forward to show there was really nothing new in intelligent design, that it had very, very deep roots in Christian theology, and it was in fact just masquerading as a scientific idea. But Barbara Forrest, author of Creationism's Trojan Horse, traced the recent history of the intelligent design movement, analyzing the cultural renewal argument as seen in the Wedge document. Interestingly, Barbara was the only witness the opposition really didn't want to see on the stand, and before the trial began, they challenged her credentials as an expert witness and filed a challenge to her ability to testify, and tried to keep her off the witness stand, and fortunately the judge denied that. This was not a case won totally upon the science. There was plenty of ammunition against the policy for the actions of school board members themselves, who among other things had made religious arguments in support of passing the policy. It was hard to argue a secular reason for teaching intelligent design under these circumstances, when the school board members make religious statements in support of passing policies supposedly for the educational value of students. Well, we did, of course, prevail in the judge's decision, and this little gray-haired lady over in the corner is in fact looking very, very happy at when the decision was posted. So, the judge wrote, the overwhelming evidence at trial established that ID is a religious view, a mere relabeling of creationism, and not a scientific theory. So where do we go from here? What has happened to the creationist movement since the failure of ID to withstand legal test? Creationism has in some ways gone back to its roots. Schematically, we can say that creation science begat intelligent design, and in the post-Edwards day, we have two trajectories, the evidence against evolution and the alternative theories projection. But of course, if you were to go to the science faculty here and say, well, could you please tell me what alternative theories there are, and they couldn't give you any, but proponents will direct you back to creation science and intelligent design. And if you go to the science faculty and say, what are the alternative theories, they will not tell you, they don't know of any, but proponents will, of course, take you back to creation science and intelligent design. It's the same sort of thing. And the evidence against evolution perspective particularly is what I want to talk about now. You find a lot of euphemisms for the evidence against evolution, including critically analyze the evidence for evolution, strengths and weaknesses for evolution, teach evolution as fact, as theory, not fact, teach the full range of views about origins, and of course, teach the controversy. Of course, the controversy is only a social controversy, it is not a controversy within science. You'll find the evidence against evolution in creation science and intelligent design publications like Icons of Evolution and Explore Evolution, not in the scientific literature. One place the evidence against evolution approach has manifested itself is in state science education standards, such as in Ohio in 2002, where at one point the life science standards called for the investigation and critical analysis of aspects of evolutionary theory, which was a very carefully worded standard that allowed both sides to claim victory. The science side claimed that, oh, well, we're just analyzing aspects of evolutionary theory like natural selection or something. Whereas the creationist side said, oh no, we're telling the teachers to analyze whether or not evolution took place. Philip Johnson, an intelligent design proponent, stated after that standard was adopted, the recent decision has been a big breakthrough. Critics are calling it a compromise, but it's our position. It allows teachers to present evidence against the theory of evolution. This evidence includes the facts that the drawings of embryos are fraudulent and the peppered moth is an outright hoax. So they're looking at things quite different than we are. I want to give you a quick little case study here. The Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills were developed in the late 90s, and they have two major parts, like most science standards around the country. The process skills, which is the stuff about how science works, and then the concepts, which is the science knowledge. In 1998, there was a process skill called 3A, which read like this: analyze, review, and critique scientific explanations, including hypotheses and theories, as to their strengths and weaknesses using scientific evidence and information. Sounds pretty innocuous, and seems like good stuff for students to know. Unfortunately, in 2004, when biology textbooks were up for adoption, the only scientific field to which the strengths and weaknesses wording was ever applied was biology and evolution. And so there was this huge fight in 2003 and 2004 where the textbook publishers were strongly pressured to introduce weakening language to coverage of evolution in the biology textbooks so that students would be given the strengths and weaknesses of evolution. No other scientific concept, just evolution. So, strengths and weaknesses is a really bad idea. So when the biology, when the science education knowledge and skills came up for revision last year, through a great deal of work, we and our allies in Texas managed to get all of the standards writing committees to submit the same language for replacing 3A, get rid of the strengths and weaknesses language. Here's the wording that was come up with. Analyze and evaluate scientific explanations using empirical evidence, logical reasoning, and experimental and observational testing. That's what scientists do. It's a really good standard. Okay. Now, it took a year to get all of the committees to submit the exact same wording. This was a really hard job.